Well, Happy New Year and welcome to the Jhorge radio show. Today's episode is about how to get what you want, what you need, and desire through a systems filter. This is our first episode of the new year 2018. Why did I select this episode? I selected this episode to illustrate why about 80% of those pursuing New Year's resolutions will stop, quit, and fail by this week. Yes, let me say this again. About 80% of those pursuing New Year's resolutions will stop, quit, and fail by the end of this week. Second, I selected this episode hoping to help you conquer the illusion of failure. Why is that so important? Because your dreams, goals, and the life that you claim to want, need, and desire depends on you succeeding and not failing. Third, I intend to stress the fact that failure is never an option for you. Why do most resolutions will fail this week? What mysterious forces make us fall short of our wants, needs, and desires? Why do we continue to deny ourselves of our most passionate needs, wants, and desires? Is it because we're weak or foolish-minded, or simply because we are out of touch with our own realities? Perhaps we have significant issues facing and understanding our own realities. Perhaps we are easily distracted, and that is why we don't finish what we start. Or maybe we spend more time minding someone else's business than minding our own. Perhaps we fall short of our goals and dreams because we lack a functional system. Regardless of our reasons, it is up to us to figure out how to satisfy our wants, needs, and desires now rather than later. Therefore, we all need some sort of system to satisfy our needs. Functional systems are highly effective, action-oriented engines. These systems can help us fulfill our wants, needs, and desires. What's the matter? You can't connect the dots, right? Are you still with me, or do you feel completely confused? If you are confused, then we're making significant progress. You see, progress is made when we begin to abandon our comfort zones and comfort habits. Moving towards success requires some measure of inconvenience and discomfort. Progress and success also have costs, risks, and benefits worth pursuing. If you're still confused, then I will show you a roadmap to facilitate understanding. A roadmap is also a systems filter capable of helping you fulfill your wants, needs, and desires. A roadmap will also help you connect the dots leading to your final destination. But before I start discussing what to do, let's start discussing what you should not do. We all have wants, needs, and desires that we must fulfill. But if our only response in which to satisfy our wants, needs, and desires come from a purely emotional approach, we must stop it right now. Why should we stop? Because if we continue with that madness, we are creating unnecessary problems for ourselves. On this episode, there are 7 points that I want you to focus on and remember. These points are: what is a system? What does a system look like? How does a strategic system work? What is the difference between a strategy and a system? How do systems and strategy affect you? And how do you create your own strategies and systems? Okay, let's start with the system. What is a system? A system is composed of several different components or parts that makes a whole unit. We will refer to these parts as tasks, processes, and actors. To give you a mental picture of what a system is, think about a watch, a car, a plane, a boat, a drone, and a GPS. They are all functional systems. To simplify our discussion, I am going to discuss the plot of the 1998 movie, Enemy of the State. Let's discuss a functional system by examining this movie: task, actors, processes, and strategies. A system is composed of task, processes, and actors. Without these elements, there is no system at all. And how does a system look like? Well, imagine three integrated wheels spinning at the same time and generating forward motion. Tasks are another word for actions. This movie has 7 key tasks. Let's discuss them. The first one is corrupt national agency member assassinates a U.S. congressman. Second, congressman is killed because he was against the passing of a new surveillance legislation. Third, the assassination was caught on tape even though it was covered up as an accident. Fourth, the tape reaches a labor lawyer who intends to turn it over to the investigating authorities. 5. Before the attorney turns the videotape, he is framed and blamed for the congressman's murder. 6. With the help of an ex-CIA intelligence officer, the attorney tries to prove his innocence. And 7. The attorney ultimately outsmarts the corrupt NSA agent and eventually proves his innocence. The actors of this movie. Attorney Robert Clayton Dean was portrayed by actor Will Smith. The NSA agent Thomas Reynolds was portrayed by actor Jon Voight. And the ex-CIA intelligence officers Edward Brill Lyle was portrayed by actor Gene Hackman. Processes is what give the system order, purpose, meaning, and results. The strategy is both an extension of a system as well as the engine behind that system. The NSA cover-up strategy was to kill the congressman, conceal his murder involvement, get the videotape, kill any eyewitnesses, and frame someone else for the congressman murder. Attorney Clayton's strategy was to expose the NSA cover-up while proving his innocence. Edward Brill Lyle's strategy was to help Clayton prove his innocence and stay alive. As you can see, the movie has 3 different strategies and systems competing with one another. Winning strategies take place when tasks, actors, and processes, the entire system, cooperate with one another. Now, let's use our National Democratic Systems model to further clarify our systems discussion. First, we have the task as previously discussed. Our tasks are to be obedient and be law-abiding citizens. Our national systems is composed of several institutions. These institutions create processes. Whenever we support these institution processes, we're labeled as model citizens. As model citizens, we are rewarded accordingly when we fulfill our tasks. But whenever we disrupt these institutional processes, we are labeled as threats. And all threats must be controlled, deterred, and ultimately eliminated. Therefore, our national institutions conditions us to obey through 2 highly effective behavioral tools. These tools are punishments and rewards, carrots and sticks. Our national system reaches its desired objective through reward and punishment. There is simply no way around it. This system of carrots and sticks promotes a duality mindset with very little room for creativity. Rather than promoting a multiplicity of creative alternatives, we are subjected to a dual system of opposite extremes. This system promotes struggles, conflicts, and unmanageable situations. The system also perpetuates win-lose scenarios that destroy lasting connections, harmony, and cooperation. As you can see, our current national system can use some upgrades and improvements, as it is far from being perfect. A system answers the question, what is? A strategy answers the question, how to do it. Both systems and strategies are critical and essential to fulfill our wants, needs, and desires. The strategy is the heart, mind, and blood flow of the entire system. Without a strategy, the system is not fully functional. Without some sort of system, it is highly unlikely that we will ever fulfill our wants, desires, and needs. How do system and strategy affect us? Well, using the same national model, let's say this. Every nation conditions, informs, and assimilates citizens using instruments of national power. These instruments of national power are political, informational, psycho-emotional, economic, and social. The power platforms of a nation rely on the balance and interplay between these instruments of national power. These instruments also rely on national institutions to condition, inform, and assimilate the population. These institutions are also responsible for promoting law, order, social equality, and education. Though well-intended, these institutions are far from being perfect, but they still work satisfactorily for most people. These national institutions are the family, education systems, religion, the community, and the media. Together, these instruments of national power and these national institutions create a powerful strategic systems that affects our everyday life. And how do all this affect us? These strategic systems shape, influence, and mold our perceptions, attitudes, and behavior. That's how we are affected. Let's examine how these strategic systems begin to affect us from early childhood. Family and school are the first institutions that influence the way we see reality. Our parents determine what is acceptable, unacceptable, and reward or punishes accordingly. There is little to no negotiations or debates with our parents, though it happens in some instances. Our educational system teaches what we need to know according to academic standards. These standards are not interested in our personal wants, desires, and needs. Whenever we don't comply with these standards, we are labeled as academic failures. Being authoritative and totalitarian in nature, the educational system does not promote negotiation, dialogue, consensus, and cooperation. The educational system exercises absolute influence and control over us by branding our academic credentials into a narrow-minded scale known as the GPA. The GPA stands for Grade Point Average. The GPA scale virtually reduces students to an unbending academic reality where A, B, C, D, and F grades are the only reality that matters. Judging by the power behind words, if the GPA is the absolute unit of measure in which to gauge our academic performance, then our best academic efforts will be no greater than average, as the term suggests. Let that thought sink in for a minute. Unintended or deliberately as it may be, the family and education institutions are mass-producing armies of citizens who are blindly obedient, who lack basic confidence skills, who are extremely shy and reserved, or who feel restrained in most, if not all, areas of their lives. Is that the best a true democratic education can do for its free-thinking citizens? Or perhaps the national strategy is to mass-produce average-thinking citizens, like the term GPA suggests. Don't you think it's rather funny how we brag about living in a free democratic society, but our family and school institutions run just like absolute dictatorships? Is this national disconnect happening by accident? Let's find out. It seems that the term education is a misnomer. Some people say that what we call education is nothing more than a national system of mass indoctrination and forced persuasion. For the sake of contrast and comparison, let's now imagine being part of a family and educational system that promotes true and free democratic values through a solid education built upon critical thinking skills. Imagine both of our families and education institutions teaching us how to develop optimum emotional intelligence, how to develop effective social skills, how to develop creative intelligence, how to collaborate with one another, how to develop conversational competence, and how to negotiate. In other words, imagine a family structure, an educational system that mass produce and supports a new society of free, critical thinkers. If we ever reach that critical thinking benchmark as a society, we may see a new golden age in human history. An age where all citizens could manage, modify, and negotiate their realities rather than being victimized by forced upon realities. Are you starting to recognize the behavior patterns? Are you seeing why our families, educational system, and other institutions do not teach us strategic systems to help us establish the lives that we want, desire, and need? In their defense, none of these institutions are responsible for establishing our pursuit of happiness, or what we consider to be the pursuit of happiness. Okay, now let's discuss how to create our own strategic systems in which to pursue happiness. As you can see, the relationship between goals, systems, strategy, and desired results creates a chain reaction. This chain reaction starts with our unfulfilled needs or problems and end up with the establishment of our desired results or solutions. Strategy and systems have a very intimate and inseparable relationship. What mental picture comes to mind when you hear the word strategy? If you're like most people, you probably think about military equipment, military leaders, military battles, and military outcomes. If that is the case, well, you're not completely wrong. But strategy is not exclusive to military operations. Strategy also applies to businesses and business leaders like Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos, Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, and Chairman and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett. Strategy applies to sport leaders like former Yankee manager Joe Torre, former Chicago Bulls coach Phil Jackson, and former Mr. Olympia Arnold Schwarzenegger. Strategy also applies to Facebook, iTunes, Netflix, Disney, and few other entertainers trying to captivate your attention, business, and dollars. In essence, we all need to design a functional strategy that includes some or all of the following strategic elements. These elements are a mission, a vision, resources, timelines, a command philosophy, a SWOT analysis that stands for strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, risk management, a distraction plan, and a metric statement. Besides being strategic elements, these elements are also strategic filters systems within themselves. Filters in which to organize ourselves, our problems, and our actions. But before creating a strategy, we must first account for our personal traits. Our personal traits, our strengths, talents, and weaknesses, are the center of our reality as well as the seat of our possibilities. Our credentials have two sides, like coins do. The first side reveals how we see ourselves. The second side reveals how others see us. Our communication style either creates opportunity for added prosperity or create barriers against that prosperity. Oftentimes we hear people say, "It is not what you say, but how you say it." That means that the way we engage others will have lasting emotional and psychological impact. Once we evaluate all of our personal traits, then we're ready to put them through the magnifying lens of the strategic systems filters. These strategic system filters will help us increase the likelihood of success. These filters are not only capable of refining and perfecting our personality traits, they can help us develop additional skills, talents, and resources. When we deploy additional skills, talents, and resources in which to fulfill our wants, desires, and needs, we also increase the likelihood of success. The entire process is going to take time, practice, and patience. So the sooner we start, the better we will be. To summarize this episode, if you're not using your intelligence, you're not creating a strategy, you're not creating a system, and you're not fulfilling your needs, then stop the madness right now. I highly recommend that you evaluate all of your personal traits, plan intelligent, create strategies, create functional systems, and develop new skills in which to fulfill all of your wants, needs, and desires. On our next episode, episode 4, we will discuss how to build powerful teams around mutual wants, needs, and desires. I hope that you found this episode useful and very informative. Keep working on your goals and please don't stop. Remember, failure is never an option.